Hey, welcome back again, y'all, to Auto Transport Intel Tuesday Nights Live. I'm Jay. I'm the car hauling dispatcher, and I welcome you back to another show. This is episode number 25 in a row. That is really cool. I'm really happy to say that, and I just want to keep on going. 8 o'clock Tuesday night Central Time. And the average show is about 90 minutes long, so if you just hit this point and you want to jump to the interview, it's usually at about 20 minutes in, unless you want to stick around for the introduction and Facebook news, then I welcome you to do that. Janine, howdy. Welcome back to the show, Janine. All right, and Acme Transport, welcome back to the show. Awesome. Viper Transport. You're back. Hey, Mike. All right. Cool. I'm looking over here. This is where my chat screen is. You guys know that. Brian the car hauler here. Welcome. Awesome. And listen, you guys, thank you so much for coming in and jumping in the live chat. Very excited about tonight's show. I've got, I talked to FleetUp, and they were nice enough to have their FMCSA DOT consultation expert Samuel Mayfield is going to join us in the interview. That's going to be happening in about 15-20 minutes, and he knows his stuff. So I mean, I'm so happy to have somebody on the show. We had Brian Riker, and that was a great show. But this is another level of like inside information. Get your questions ready, because he is ready to talk about FleetUp ELD Solution and also FMCSA DOT regulations. So hey, Sean, welcome to the show, coming in from sunny Maryland. Yeah, dude, that is happening. Nor'easter after nor'easter. Pastor G, welcome to the show. Awesome. So I guess at this point, without further ado, we should jump into some Facebook news. Yeah, I got a little graphic there. How exciting. Okay. What do we have here? Oh, by the way, this is the this picture. I got this off of Facebook. The next 15 minutes is all Facebook stuff. And this is David Montebeau Sr., I believe, hauling, as you can see, there's some NYPD vehicles. Hey, Nadia, welcome back to the show. Julia, welcome to the show. Alex, welcome to the show. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, joining the show on a Tuesday night. I really, really do appreciate it. And for anybody that just started watching the show on demand, you can leave your comments below. You know, I'll email you, I'll comment, I'll reply, and it's the community. It's an open forum of an ecosystem that keeps this show going. So I really, really appreciate that. All right, so this is off Facebook. Attention DOT, truck driving is not a crime. So stop treating us like criminals. I know it feels that way sometimes. And that's another thing, that's what's so great. Samuel was kind enough to come on the show, and I kind of told him a little bit about the show, got him a little ready, because, you know, there are two sides to every story. I don't know. Maybe. Unless you're at the scale. If you're wearing it, cleaning with it, eating it, drinking it, driving it, or sleeping on it, thank a trucker for bringing it. And that goes for your cars, too. We love our cars. It's not all about you. It's all about the car hauler, maybe. So, anyways. Okay, and that, man, look at that. That is a dude's arm. Big Papa, welcome to the show. Clarksville Trucking, welcome back, Dave. That's some serious ink, man. That is nice. Look at the curve in the road. Dang. I don't have any tattoos, but that's pretty cool. Okay, so you guys know about the weather. I mean, everybody knows about the weather. We've had, like, crazy weather for too long. We have another DOT truck ban 8 o'clock tonight. So that started 7 minutes ago. So get off the road and join the live chat. Alan Spears. Okay, so, and meanwhile, oh, yeah, because you don't want that. You don't want that. Meanwhile, today there was a tornado warning in Florida. Can you believe that? Man, what is going on? And I talked to Don. He's down in Florida right now. Yeah, he had heard, I mean, that, you know, it became a pretty serious situation there for a minute. Echo Screen, welcome back to the show, man. Hail damage in Coleman, Alabama. These dealership pictures have been all over Facebook. You guys have seen this? Ain't that a beaut? Man. Well, how are you going to do your inspection now? Okay. And, you know, we've seen a lot of tumbling car haulers lately. I mean, it's weird. Like, a lot. I don't know why. Why is that? What's going on? What is going on, man? And we've seen a lot of bridges getting hit, too, man. Dang, dude. I think it's probably been happening the same amount. It's just that with social media, we're seeing, like, every one. I don't know. I really don't know, man. But, yeah, that sign's going to be everywhere soon. And this guy, how's this guy doing? Is that, okay. All right. What's that, Nadia? Weather is, yeah, the weather's drunk. Hey, what's up, New Age Trucker? Welcome to the show, man. I've been catching your videos. If you haven't seen New Age Trucker, check it out. What is that, by the way? What is this strange, flat, on a spiral thing? What is that? You never want to see this kind of sign. And, I mean, just more and more. There was, by the way, there was a picture of a guy that is banned from all Manheims. Now, I'm not going to put that on the show because, I mean, I don't have the inside information on that. But guys like that are causing signs like this. Due to recent events in the sold lot, new security measures have been put into place for now. Only one dude, dealer, transporter, customer allowed in the sold area at a time. Oh, man. I'm telling you. I wouldn't even want to be close to being responsible for the enforcement of that. Ah, dude. And the ELD's just clicking away, right? Alexander, know what I'm saying? I think my phone's ringing. Hey, what's the law about having a pistol in the truck? What is the law? I see this question a lot. You know, teachers are carrying. Can truckers carry? I don't know. I don't even know if what I said is true or not, but, you know, it seemed semi-relevant. All right. This guy says, what does he say? 5th blowout since last December. My boss won't use anything but recaps, and it's getting old. By the way, you know I try to keep it clean. I mean, I got YouTube regulations. There's the DOT. That's a joke. Okay. Here's one. I love to, you know, we do love to look at loads on this show. 9 cars. Okay, they're all VW Passats. That's cool. From Vegas to South San Francisco. What? Really? Check your phone. Really? Why am I checking my phone? You know, you can email me. What? That flipped over. Oh, improper weight distribution. Oh, wow. Well, thank you. That was cool. Wow, look at this community in action. Improper weight distribution. I'm assuming that's the problem on a lot of those. Which, by the way, just to mention it, in dispatcher training, this can become part of the dispatcher's problem. So, not directly, but I think you see what I'm saying. So, dispatchers know those weights, or at least take it into consideration. But ultimately, it's the driver's call. But this, what is this load? I like Cars Arrive, but what is this? Hey, Jay finally started car hauling as a driver on a high rail. Hard work. Yeah, man. All right. That's cool, though. Can't put a recap on a steer tire. Well, it's a good thing, right? Because if you could, you know they would. Here is a conversation. Here's a textual conversation. When are you going to pick it up? I can pick it up Monday morning and deliver the same day. It's not ready till the 21st. That'll be fine. Book it. I'll give you $1 a mile. Pick up the 21st. You will give me $6.50, or you can find someone else. Now, the context here is it was posted at, apparently this was posted at $1.50 a mile. And once they got the interest in the fish hook in the water, oh, no, it's only $1 a mile. Know anybody else that does that trick? Anybody? I know somebody that does that trick. Drives me crazy. What kind of trick would you categorize that as? I'd categorize it as a broker trick. There, I said it. Hey, I'm needing a car I have in Marlboro picked up, delivered to Charlotte. Do you have any trucks available for that? The transporter says, I might. What kind of car is it? I'm assuming it's at Copart, right? Copart cities, man. Copart cities. And is there a means to unload it at the destination? Crickets. Crickets. You know why there's crickets? Because there's nothing at the destination but a dude and a hook. Or something, right? By BWT all day long. Whoops. You tricked me. Let's see here. Okay, here's a story from George. Man, George is a dedicated watcher. And I thank George for sharing his stories. And he says a company on, okay, May 24th, 2017 paid him $300 to move 4 Nissan Leafs 17 miles from Corona to Anaheim. Today, same company, 5 Fiats, Corona to Long Beach, 47 miles, for $200. I called and offered to do it for $350. They said, no, the cars are listed at the going rate. Move it all day, right? Who's heard that one? Move it all day. I didn't take the load. In 2015, I moved cars from Long Beach Port to Fontana, $85 a car. Now they pay $60 a car. Dang, man. Now you need to run 3 loads a day to make money instead of 2. But the lot only loads cars 8 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. Can't make 3 loads. I'm surprised it's 8 to 3:30. Man, they should make it more like 10 to 2. I'm telling you, right? I mean, what is going on? It just, everything gets tightened. With, you know, with the ELD, everything, shouldn't the rates be going up? When are those rates going to go back up? Right? When are the rates going to go back up? You can't even fly. Not fly. What I'm trying to say is as the crow flies. Okay, right? From Vegas to South San Francisco, you can't drive that in a straight line. Even if you could, that's not a great deal. You got to go around. Yeah, I'm getting tired of it. I'm going to have to drink my ELD Kool-Aid. Okay. Here we go. Here's a new clause, because there's not enough clauses. So, our hired contractor carriers agree that they are ELD compliant pursuant to HOS ELD Mandate Section 32301B of the Commercial Motor Vehicle Safety Enhancement Act. Yeah, man. Can we add it? Hey, I'm the carrier. Can I add a clause? Oh, no, I can't? Oh, okay, cool. Sweet. Pennsylvania welcomes you to pay a toll. You hear about the turnpike toll lawsuits? What's up with that? What do you think? Why not? Yeah, man, everybody else is getting more. Why not? Give it to the toll guy. I got a ticket £1,000 over gross. I have to go to court. No choice to pay fine. No choice. Or pay fine in California. Awesome. Just another thing to add to the list of stuff to do. After I recap my steer tire. Can't do that. Alright, red light or flag required. And number 4513.09. A, whenever the load upon any vehicle extends to the rear 4 feet or more beyond the bed or body of such vehicle, there shall be displayed at the extreme rear end of the load at the time specified in section 4513.03 of the revised code. Anyways, I was talking to Samuel, saying how, I mean, you know, just knowing all the codes and everything. And this is just the specific code about a red light or flag required and the specific distance of overhang. And, yeah. Oh, guilty of a minor misdemeanor. That's nice. Okay. Who else we got? Oh, Raphael, you need to school the fools taking the cut rates. Yeah, well, that's a big job. Huge, man. I'm going to need help with that. David, guys, some guy in truckers had enough, just got put out of service in Iowa for using Keep Trucking ELD. Now, this is hearsay. I don't know. I read this on Facebook. I really don't know. Because Keep Trucking ELD is an approved FMCSA ELD device, I'm pretty sure. And yet, the description, operating with a device that is not registered by the FMCSA. So, I don't know, man. That's crazy. Sounds like a bad day, dude. Oh, come on. You know, you see those Calvin things? All right. And this guy says, cut the cord. Just do it. Do it. Do it. All right. So, yeah. That's Facebook news. Oh, just added this one. Just saw this. That is hilarious. I'm out of hours, bro. Oh, cool. We're 2 minutes early to our interview, which is really cool. So, that is it for Facebook news. So let's go ahead and close that out. And bring this back up here. Whoa. Get a little crazy there. You're gonna give me tunnel vision. Alright, so let's call Samuel. Let's get this party started. Let's you guys got your questions ready? Okay. And let's go ahead and fire up. What do we got here? Little self-promotion. It's all self-promotion. Get out of here. Okay, so we're gonna talk to FleetUp. We're going to talk to Samuel Mayfield at FleetUp. He's also an FMCSA instructor, and at FleetUp his title is I want to say FMCSA DOT Consulting Expert, and we're going to give him a call in a minute. And FleetUp has an ELD solution. So the way this happened is, the way this interview came together is I saw a FleetUp webinar a couple weeks ago. You know, a free ELD webinar. Man, I'm in. Let's do this thing. And fire up the coffee, and I sit and hang out and learn more about ELD Solutions. And I saw the webinar. It was very informative. And then I reached out to them, and what was really cool is they were kind enough to let me talk to Samuel tonight. We'll get about an hour with him. So guys, if you've got questions, and we've also they're running a promotion, actually, as we learn more about the FleetUp ELD solution. I believe they said if you go to FleetUp.com and go ahead and get a demo, and within there you can mention auto transport intel in the questions, and if you sign up before April 1st, you can get a discount. So that's pretty cool. Very cool. All right, let's learn more about it. Here we go. And if you haven't already, go ahead and please give this show a like if you're enjoying the show. Hey, Samuel, welcome to Auto Transport Intel.
Thank you.
All right. I really appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to join me. So,
fun?
Yeah, well, so did you see the Facebook news?
I did.
Okay. Any comments?
Only the Calvin was funny.
Yeah, I know. That one really sticks out. You know, Calvin has had his way with a lot of things over the years. So when I saw that, it was kind of a throwback, because I thought that whole thing went away years ago. So, yeah, I know. Well, it's an uphill battle, it seems. But we're going to get there, and you're going to help us, right?
Of course.
Exactly. Okay, cool. So, Samuel, will you please give just an introduction about your background and what your world is like? Will you do that for me?
Sure. I started with the Arizona Department of Public Safety back in 1993, state trooper, and back then the DOT regulations was the biggest pain in my you-know-what for a long time. And then I had the opportunity to be transferred into the Commercial Vehicle Enforcement Bureau, which I hesitantly accepted, and I have learned so much about the regulations that it actually became fun for me to research regulations, learn about and interpret and understand these kinds of things. I took every opportunity that they provided for me to include becoming an FMCSA instructor. I was an auditor, doing both new entrant safety assessment audits as well as the compliance reviews. I just took that with me when I retired, and now I do consulting work.
Wow. Okay. And you were, it's interesting, you were telling me how your first introduction to it, I mean, did it seem overwhelming at first when you decided to take on this level of, I mean, it's a lot of responsibility. You hold a lot of responsibility, don't you?
Right, and that was the reason why I didn't want to get into truck enforcement in the first place, was because I really didn't understand the regulations. There's so much to know and understand. The first year in the Bureau for the Commercial Vehicle Enforcement, I didn't do anything other than study. For the first year, they sent me to 6 different schools to get my certifications. I shadowed other auditors and just learned for the entire first year.
Right, and so, for the car hauler, because we're talking about car haulers, I was telling you how I really just talk about the car hauling community. I don't really talk about freight, but freight is welcome here. I mean, anybody in the shipping community is welcome here. But for a car hauler trying to run a business and, manage the business expenses, etc., is there a good way for a car hauler to manage the expectations of living up to the letter of the law at a DOT inspection? Sounds just really hard.
Well, I don't know that it's too much different for a car hauler than the other parts of the transportation industry. I think it's a lot similar in the fact that even though you transport automobiles specifically, a lot of the DOT regulations are still ones that you have to comply with. And so it's all learning and understanding and complying with those things. It's not an easy task. I get that.
Right.
And in fact, that's what helps me stay in business, is helping companies and people and attorneys understand what the regulations say, what their interpretations mean, so that you can effectively apply that to your operations.
I just clicked on, in FleetUp.com resources, the right ELD and ebook. And also I was trying to find on the, I found it before, on the FMCSA website, there's that Improving Motor Carrier Safety document.
The ETA package.
Where's the easiest way to... I find their menus hard to... I don't know what I'm doing.
Understand that the FMCSA's website was not designed by truckers. It was not designed by anyone wanting to understand the regulations. It was designed by a bunch of computer geeks who are paid to complete their task, okay?
Yeah.
So here's the easiest way to find it.
A lot of websites are like that.
Yes.
Yeah.
You go to the FMCSA's homepage.
Okay.
And they have a search bar in the upper right window.
Okay.
Type in ETA package. Hit search. It'll be the first one that pops up.
Awesome. What's ETA stand for? Oh, there it is.
It's the Educational and Technical Assistance Package. And their actual term for it then is the Motor Carrier's Guide to Improving Highway Safety. But in the training I went through, when they first put this out, they're like, oh, we have this ETA package that you can, use as a reference for companies needing to learn or understand. And at the same time, they said it is not a substitution for the regulations, but it is a guide to help companies understand the regulations. My best reference that I tell people to use it for is examples of forms. When you're talking about driver qualification forms, vehicle maintenance forms, all these different things, if you use the forms that the federal government has placed within this document, no auditor can tell you that it's the wrong form, because they're the ones who published it.
Okay, and I think this is from, okay, December 2009. So that still holds true today?
That is the most current version.
Okay. Okay. Cool. So as a owner operator, I'll try to stop saying car hauler specifically. As an owner operator, as an owner, okay, as an owner, what should be your go-to learning resources and documents? Would you say this is one of them?
Certainly one of those documents. You know, it's interesting. I actually did an audit on a company one time where it had two young ladies who were relatives of the owner of this company, and they passed the new entrant safety audit with flying colors. There was only one tiny mistake that they had, and I asked them, because people were asking me as an auditor, where can I go get this training? And I had no answer for them. And I asked them, where did you get your training? They said, we didn't. We just opened the regulations book and started reading. Now, I think that's the hardest way to learn the regulations, but certainly a possibility if you dedicate your time to it. It's not as easy to understand everything they're talking about, but these two ladies who were young, they did very well in doing such.
That's awesome.
The biggest thing, like I say with my business motto, is knowledge is power. How are you going to comply with something if you don't know what it says? You can read the ETA package, which is dated 2009. It's not going to tell you anything about the ELD regulations.
Right.
Because it's published before ELDs were mandated, many, many years before it's mandated. So how are you going to stay up on the current regulations and understanding what is there? You need to not only check the ETA package, but check the regulations online. You need to subscribe to watchdog groups, associations or what, that keep you up to date with current regulatory changes that are proposed and ones that are finalized, so you can stay up on this information. This is exactly what I have to do now to stay current on these regulations, because when I was a trooper, they spoon-fed this information to me. They sent me information saying, hey, this is what's going to happen, and this is what you're going to do, and they send us the classes. Now that I'm retired from that part of the job, I don't get that from the feds or from the state anymore, and I have to go, like everyone else, and search this information. For me, fortunately, that's my primary function, whereas a owner-operator is wearing so many hats. Where do they find the time to do that? You know, where do they have to worry about the brokers and the customers and their finances and registrations, etc. They've got all these different things going on. They're wearing all the hats themselves.
Yeah.
How do they study for this stuff? It's crazy for their time allotment.
That's what I say.
That's where consultants can really help them.
Right.
The problem is
cost.
I tell everyone, you need to search and find out where these consultants get their information, where's their experience from, because a lot of and I can't say all, because I have met some very knowledgeable consultants who have come in through this pathway, but a lot of consultants who were truck drivers turned safety managers or consultants, they don't know really what the regulations say. They just regurgitate what they have heard, and that's the wrong answer, because if it's just regurgitating what you've heard, you could have heard wrong. What's the what's the reference? What's the regulations say? What interpretation questions apply to that very issue? Those are the kind of consultants you need to consult with.
Okay, so we just had someone in the chat line say cdlmanager.com is also a way to a resource to get this information. I'm assuming there's a lot of different ways. But what I wanted to say was, it sounds to me like this is where FleetUp is not only an ELD solution, but helps you get the answers and stay informed. Am I right about that?
Absolutely. When I partnered with FleetUp for their ELD program, part of what I wanted to accomplish with these ELD webinars that we've been putting on is not just answer questions about the ELD, but questions in general. I mean, we have, if you've watched some of the webinar. We answer questions about regulations that are not even related to the ELD mandate, but because someone's curious or asking a question about something, I try and answer it to the best of my ability within the time frame that we have, just so that the information's out there.
Well, and so I was just going to say, so if somebody wanted to, let's say they wanted to take it upon themselves to learn more now, this like FleetUp.com/ELD ELD-mandate / you can watch videos there. Would that be a good place to start? Like you talked about Bluetooth versus telematics, which is just one element of what goes into the technology of making one ELD better than another. Am I right?
Absolutely, and that is an excellent resource because all of the webinar questions through all the different webinars we've done have been isolated and posted so that you can even search for them by topic, and then watch the questions and the answers that were put out.
Okay, that's cool. Yeah, so I mean you've got, and I like that. I mean you've got a lot of information, a lot of resource information, even if I wasn't sure if I wanted to sign up with the ELD solution. When I see this much information, it makes me lean towards maybe this would be the provider that I should go with. And it didn't even... Yeah.
Yes, and I think just going through the webinar, we're going to have more webinars coming up. If people want to sign up for them, there's no obligation to choose FleetUp as a solution, but it's still a good resource. You can even, put your question in. If you have a specific question, put your own question in for us to address. The only thing they don't like is if you try to be anonymous, because they want to be able to follow through on questions that we don't have time to answer, and they will do that through an email address. So if you leave the email address blank, they're not going to ask that question because they have no way of following up on it.
So to sign up for a webinar, how would somebody watching this right now, how would they go and sign up for a FleetUp webinar?
Just go to the FleetUp website and look for the webinar, and it should have the instructions right there on signing up for the webinar.
Okay.
I think the next one's coming up this April.
And I also want to encourage, right, well, let's see, there was one this morning. Okay, yep, here's the register button. Okay, so you just go, FleetUp.com, and then you can scroll down, see, get the demo, and so I'm going to mention there's a Dispatch Monkey. Somebody is pushing Dispatch Monkey on Facebook, so just giving a shout out to him there. But if you are at FleetUp.com and you scroll down past Get a Demo, FleetUp ELD, you can also comparison chart, get more. Well, there's a lot of information up here. And then you keep scrolling down, you can register for a webinar. And that's what I did. That's what started this. So I definitely recommend watching webinars and getting information. Now, here's a question for you. And then we're going to start going to some chat questions. But it's March 20th. Is it too late? What if I don't know much about ELD? What do I do? Am I in scramble mode?
At this point in time, I would certainly say you're in scramble mode, simply because come April 1st is when what I'm calling the hard enforcement starts. That's when CSA points and out-of-service orders start being issued.
Out of service.
Not complying with the ELD mandate.
Right.
The ELD mandate actually kicked in back in December 18th. It's just the CDSA and the FMCSA both came out and said, hey, we're going to have a little transition time frame. And I know there were several factors that came into that, to include the enforcement side of this. In different states didn't have all of their troopers or inspectors up to date on what the regulations were either. So they were trying to increase their training time as well. But
right.
That's where they extended everything out to April 1st.
Right.
But and likewise, I said in the last webinar as well, and I've mentioned it on LinkedIn as well. if your drivers, if you have an ELD solution and none of your drivers have gone through an inspection to test your ELD solution, I would suggest, with the amount of time you have left, and as soon as possible, have your drivers try to get an inspection, because right now, if it's not working the way it's supposed to, better to know now when there's no penalties really, and you can search for a solution quickly, than to wait until after April 1st when there's going to be points and out-of-service orders. So it's always a smart thing to test that out before April 1st, and if you find that your solution has failed you, or if you already know it has, I would certainly scramble to get an effective ELD solution before April 1st. And I know that's not a whole lot of time, as far as getting things done, but that's your deadline, and I would certainly encourage anyone to try and meet that deadline as quickly as possible before you start getting hit with points and out-of-service orders.
It's less than 2 weeks. I was just looking at my calendar on my phone. I mean, April 1st is Easter Sunday in less than 2
April
weeks.
Fools, but
in
it's
April
no joke.
Fools, right. How convenient.
Right.
But basically, April 1st is what December 18th was originally supposed to be. Is that right?
That is correct.
Right. So one could argue that you've had an extra 100 days. But
could argue that, yeah.
One could argue. I'm not going to argue that, but I know one could. So, gosh.
And I look at the comments that the new
I know.
FMCSA not director, she's I forget her exact, some high up management position now, but
yeah,
she was defending the FMCSA and not changing some of the mandate deadlines, and her response basically is you've had 2 years to prepare for this, and I understand ELD companies didn't even have their act together, so I can't say that you really had 2 years, but certainly since mid last year, since June-ish of last year, the ELD companies had understood what is required, put out solutions, and companies should have been looking at it. And so this extension is really a benefit for companies that have either run into problems with their solution they chose or were procrastinating.
And I'm going to answer yes, Nadia. The webinars are free, but I think you can only do one, right? Because you've only got so many seats or something like that, I think.
I'm not sure.
Right, I'm not going to swear by that, but I think they're hoping that you just do one. Maybe not. But I want to say this, is that, yes, we're starting to now get questions in the live chat. Some are questions, some are comments, and I welcome every single one of them. It's going to be hard for me to read them all. So what I'm wondering is, hopefully there are, I don't know if you've got anyone else on your behalf, Samuel, that can help you kind of look at some of the chat questions and answer some of those, and I'll help in any way I can. But what do you think of what I just said? I mean, we're seeing several. I know that New Age Trucker, he had one. Question when he... Okay, well, New Age Trucker, go ahead. Sam, what is the rule on duty status at the shipper and receiver if the driver is not, I guess, in charge of loading or unloading? Duty status. So this is a specific duty status question that New Age Trucker has. What is the rule?
Okay, so it sounds like he's asking what duty status can you claim while you're at a shipper or receiver if you're not doing the loading or unloading yourself?
Yes.
And here's the thing: if you are not doing any responsibilities business-wise, then you can go off duty. You can do sleeper berth. That is completely your choice because you're not doing any responsibilities at the time. And I go to the definition of on-duty time found in 395.2, where it describes what is on-duty time. And if you are giving or receiving receipts related to the loading or unloading, if you're participating in loading and unloading, all of these different functions, if it's business related, you are on duty, and you can't claim off-duty or sleeper berth then. But if you've been relieved from all your responsibilities related to that truck and the load, work in general, then you can claim off-duty time. Otherwise, it would have to be on duty, not driving.
Right. Okay. And I know that New Age Trucker works in freight, which is why his question, I don't know, in car hauling, you're usually doing your own loading and unloading, so you wouldn't really have that option.
Right.
I also wanted to take this moment to mention that I think that in the scope of fairness, because I'm trying to be fair. I always try to be somewhat fair. Intermittently when I'm unfair. But I think that I looked at this white paper about intelligent fleet management solutions, and the kind of the concept of how this is the third wave of technology. And you think of the ELD as not just a device doing X, but that we're really integrating technology into the full scope of all of the parts that technology can help improve. Would you say? I think am I barking up the right tree on that? Not just compliance, but operational costs, driver accountability, productivity, theft, things that stores and businesses also think about in all the aspects that go into profitability. And because, when you're managing a fleet, a large fleet, obviously the ELD is probably a no-brainer, or a device. You call it an ELD if you want to, but a device that manages all of these parameters, right?
Absolutely, and I've related the ELDs to like what people in the finance world have dealt with. If you had to deal with the books of the company years and years ago, they had paper ledgers and stuff. Now they all use QuickBooks or some kind of accounting software.
That's right.
And that was not, the difference is that was not forced upon them by regulations. That was the technology driving the industry, and they're like, well, hey, if you're not using this software, you're behind times, and it's taking you too long to do stuff.
Right.
The ELD is bringing the trucking industry into the 21st century in a way. For the most part, gone are the paper logbooks where you have to draw the lines and handwrite the stuff. And you can now integrate all of that stuff with other electronics. It's amazing to think of all the different options when you look at fleet management systems, when you look at automated systems, and this ELD software is going to help push all of that through. I understand there's a lot of people that just don't like ELDs, and there's a number of reasons as to why. But when you look
there
at the
certainly
positive
are.
side, when you look at the positive side, there's a lot of things that this technology is going to bring to the benefit of the transportation industry. You just have to look at it.
Well, but I think it's the consequences of not just being. I know it seems like there's been enough notice and enough time, but I don't know. It's interesting. I really feel the pain and stress and fear of the owner that is afraid of what's going to happen when he's not fully ELD compliant. There's so much of that going around because it's already so complicated to stay up to date with even just the codes of compliance, set aside the ELD or any electronic gadget,
Right. And even with trying to decide who to use as your ELD solution, there's so many different companies. How many of these companies popped up overnight?
Right.
Just because they can create some game on your smartphone app It doesn't mean that they know what the regulations say and how
That's,
they're going to create an electronic logging system.
that's right.
That's going to be compliant. But
That's right.
even that aside, even some of the big players are having issues with their programming, especially if you go Bluetooth. And I've said this on the webinars at FleetUp, and I'll say it here. Bluetooth is dangerous because of the possibility of a disconnect of Bluetooth connection, which means you have a loss of data. And that's bad, because when you have that loss of data, it's like you have a logbook that you've ripped half the page out of, and you're going to show that to the inspector. Well, where's the missing information? I think it's just a bad deal.
Well, and I think that when you talk about ELD Solutions and you look at it in the truck, you realize that you want it to be a standalone device. You don't want it to be your cell phone.
Right, and there's some other options out there. I just know that the convenience of, almost everyone's got a smartphone nowadays.
Right.
You can download an app. The whole thing of going to the truck stop and buying the one off the shelf, plug and play. Hey, there you go. But
now you have the concern that you've just handed your cell phone over to a DOT officer, where you didn't plan on handing over your life in a device.
Right.
Well, I mean, that's a problem.
At the same time, honestly, you don't have to hand your cell phone to the inspector. All it says is that the inspector it must be in such a manner that the inspector does not have to climb into the truck in order to see it. Now, you can certainly hand your device, your tablet or your cell phone, to the inspector if you choose, but you could hold it yourself and just show them the screen as you scroll through the different days and what. That's acceptable as well. They don't have to hold it themselves. And then there's always the data transfer as well. If they say, hey, transfer this data, you have to do it. And then they'll have all of that data on their computer that you don't have to have them looking at your phone anymore.
So we'll come back to the third wave, but I do want to say I like this voice over hours of service feature, because you feel daunted by the task of now having to learn the ELD. FleetUp has devised, it's almost like a Siri to guide you through the ELD use. Is that what it is?
It's like having an assistant with you, is what the voiceover is like. I mean, in this technology world today, and I think FleetUp is the only ELD that's doing it.
Yeah, I never heard of that.
It's taken this to a whole new level.
Yeah.
Okay, we've got Cortana, we've got Siri, we've got Alexa, we've got all of these different interactive things that will say, hey, play this song, and it'll do it. With the voice-over, what it's doing is it's giving you audible instructions or notifications. They're working on completely interactive system, but that's yet down the road. But at least right now, it will give you alerts. It'll say, hey, you have so much time left remaining. In that regard, then the driver doesn't have to look at the device so much. They can pay attention to what's going on the road and get the information they need when they need it.
And that is compatible with both Android and iOS devices, is that right?
Absolutely.
Cool. Yeah, that's so the bigger problems I hear about, since again in freight you've got these large companies, fleets, etc., whereas car haulers is usually a lot of one-man operations or small fleets, if you will, that there are questions and issues with Android versus iOS, but even more of dually truck versus semi. And I don't want to put you, in a position of, a surprise question, but do you think FleetUp is compatible in the 4 cases that I mentioned?
Absolutely.
That's good.
And part of that is understanding that the different ECMs that these manufacturers of vehicles have created. I mean, Ford and Chevy and International and Freightliner, they're different companies. and Apple do. They have different languages they use, and FleetUp has worked on a solution for all of those different languages so that they are compatible with the different vehicle types, not just the different connectivity needed for the OBD port, because different manufacturers, if you're talking a big semi-truck, it's going to have a different OBD port than a Chevy pickup. They have the correct link connectors for that plug-in, as well as the computer language barriers have been solved. So that's part of the issues that ELD companies must overcome if they're going to be a solution for the transportation industry. Not just everyone. I mean, everyone doesn't drive a Freightliner.
That's right. In fact, I mean, I don't know. In car hauling, it seems to be, gosh, I don't know if it's half. I don't know if it's, I don't know where that line is, but there are a lot of dually pickups in car hauling.
Absolutely.
Whereas in hotshot freight, LTL, also has a lot of dually pickups. So, and your support, I'm guessing 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Monday through Friday. That's pretty good. And then if it's beyond those hours, you're chatting, because I know when it comes to software and trucking, you got to have great support, because, right? I mean, guys are working whenever.
Right.
Right? So, I mean, you've got, and you got a knowledge base, FleetUp Learning Center. I mean, that is another reason that I wanted to talk to you all, was that this is more than one of the many ELD providers that showed up. Right? Well, where does the FleetUp ELD, what's the background? What was FleetUp doing before ELD?
Well, that's an interesting question, because FleetUp has been around for over a decade. The owners and creators of FleetUp started off with just electronic solutions for different companies and industries. So they were one of the first companies to come up with a GPS tracking system. This is before ELD mandate. This is way before.
Right.
They've been involved in computer and cell phone communication solutions, even in other countries outside of the U.S. They've been around and doing technology stuff for a long time. And with them already having the background of the GPS system under their belt, helping companies track vehicles and their drivers, especially in some countries where they don't have a good system for keeping track of their vehicles if one runs off a cliff somewhere. This was a solution they had for being able to find their vehicles if it had run off a cliff. It was an easy transition for them to get into the ELD mandate part, because they already had a lot of it solved.
So, and now I was just thinking, as you were saying that, is FleetUp partnered with other large technology companies? I don't want to name one that maybe it's not, but is that the case?
FleetUp does have a number of partners and backers that they do business with and are related with. Don't ask me to name off the company names, because I don't think I could.
Right. Right.
I know that they do have those relationships with other companies to make sure that they are on the cutting edge of technology and what they do. And
like FleetUp, okay, and to mention that FleetUp is located in, I believe Jordan said, San Jose. That's an updated kind of centralized location for FleetUp.
Correct.
Which would be within proximity of many major technology companies, and FleetUp has its finger on the pulse, which is important, right?
Right, which is why they have their headquarters located there in the first place.
Right, and that makes sense. Well, there's a blog here, so that's just a constant stream of updated information. Can somebody try FleetUp as a just to kind of give it a test run? I know there's not much time to do much testing, but is that an option? Can somebody could a car hauler say, "Hey, I want to try it out, but I'm not yet convinced"? Can they do that?
I believe that is an option, but that would be with the marketing group as far as what options are available for that. So I don't want to say incorrect information on that. So
Yeah.
contact FleetUp and ask if that's an option or not. Whether you can test a system out before you purchase. I'm not sure myself. I can't say for sure.
Maybe Jordan can shed some light on that. Let's see here. I'm going to try and pull another question out. So hey guys, if I missed your question, go ahead and please just re-put it in the chat here. Because I'm seeing Paul's got a lot of information talking about personal rights. I'm guessing privacy rights, which always becomes a concern with technology that seems intrusive. Can you add anything on that opinion? I mean,
sure.
Yeah.
I don't see any issue with privacy as it relates to the electronic logging device system, simply because it is only making an electronic version of a paper log. It's not putting a camera inside your sleeper berth. It's not searching your phone system for contacts or for anything like that. And in fact, if that is a real concern of a driver or a company, then buy cell phones or tablets specifically for work, and then don't put anything personal on it. You don't have any concerns then at all. That's still an option. Well, I think what a lot of drivers refer to when they talk about invasion of privacy is that the GPS tracking system can see exactly where you are. Whereas on paper logbooks, you could be lying your butt off about where you were and what you were doing, and there was no one to verify otherwise. But that's still not meeting the definition legally of invasion of privacy, because the truck is what's being tracked, not you yourself. And the truck is part of a regulated industry. It's business related, and that's how that comes to play.
Right.
So there really is no legal basis, because I guarantee you, with some of the associations and watchdog groups out there, there would have already been a lawsuit if invasion of privacy was a part of the ELD mandate.
Right. Well, and that's true. That's true. If there was true invasion of privacy concerns, yeah, there are watchdog groups that would bring forth lawsuits. So there is truth to that. I know that, there is some technology out there where it seems like the driver is being heavily monitored to the point where somebody back at the main office could, in real time, watch the driver make a mistake and make a comment. And do you know what I'm talking about? I feel like I've seen, I don't want to name any companies, but the thing is that it seems like some solutions can get a little crazy with what they're actually doing, and, like geofencing and whatnot. I mean, where you can put technology limits on where people can go, and I don't know. Do you have any thoughts
also
on that?
Understand, over the last 10 years, there has already been out there load tracking devices that use GPS. There's been anti-vehicle theft things a company could install into the truck that tells them where the truck is, and no one's complained or cried that that's an invasion of privacy because they're tracking their equipment. This technology has been around for a long time as far as GPS goes. I think the biggest complaint, if you boil it down, the biggest complaint from the drivers is that they're not allowed to cheat on their logbook. I can't tell you how many times I would stop a truck or do an inspection on a driver and find multiple logbooks in the cab.
Right.
And
Right.
That's just those drivers that decided they were going to try and find a loophole around complying with those regulations. I can't say all drivers do that, because there are a number of drivers that were spot on. There was no extra logbooks, and they understood what the responsibilities were, but that seems to be the biggest complaint, is that I can't, if I move my truck, it puts me on duty, that means I'm going to be over hours. Yeah, but it was that with the rules haven't changed, just everything's now automated as far as the driving time goes.
So here's a question. I've heard it talked about that, okay, so maybe ELD isn't the problem, but rather the hours of service rules. Can you weigh in on that? I mean, I'm sure you've heard something about that debate, right?
Yes, I have heard that debate.
Okay.
And the funny thing is that this debate really hasn't come up since 2004 until now. When the hours of service changed for the property carrying driver, it was back in 2004, there was a lot of debate about that, and some drivers liked it because they were going from only 10 hours of driving time allowed to 11 hours of driving time. And they were going from a 15-hour shift rule to a 14-hour shift rule, and they didn't seem to have too much problems with that. Yet now it becomes an issue of, hey, these rules are not good anymore. How are we supposed to make any money? How are we supposed to do anything? Again, the ELD is not changing those hours of service. And if you want to go and do the research, you can find the studies that were done by the FMCSA prior to 2004 on whether these rule changes would make it safer for property carriers or make it worse for property carriers. So if you're going to battle the federal government on changing these hours of service, understand you've got years worth of research that they have done and studies that they have done that you're going to have to combat with that as well. So it is certainly something that can be reviewed. I'm not saying that the hours of service can never change again, but you're going to have a good basis to say so.
Was the 30-minute break so hard-lined?
That was not around in 2004.
See,
no,
that's
that is a change that came up, I think, in 2013, I want to say.
I hear drivers talk about this 30-minute break, this mandatory 30-minute break. Is it after 8 hours? Is that right?
Well, the regulation says the driver's not allowed to drive after the 8th hour from their last break of 30 minutes or more.
So there's drivers pulling over for 30 minutes to twiddle their thumbs when they're ready to go. It's creating a hiccup in their momentum. I hear that a lot.
Let's look at another concept here too.
Okay.
If we were in an office world, okay, if you had a career doing something different, labor laws pretty much would say that you have to get a 30-minute lunch break.
Okay, I'm with you.
And why wouldn't truckers be allowed to have a 30-minute lunch break? Now, understanding that's one idea or thought.
Okay.
Right? So, when you are driving, and think of before the half-hour break was there, all right, how long is a driver allowed to drive? If they start their day, do their pre-trip, hop in the truck, and go. 11 hours. You ever tried to drive for 11 hours? I know truckers have. How fatiguing is that on your brain?
Right.
I've had to do that. I've tried to do that. And as a cop, I had to work many a 12-hour shift. And that total focus for that long of time is mind-boggling. Okay?
I've actually, maybe a couple times in my life, had to do that.
So having that 30-minute break allows the
point.
brain to relax a little bit and actually helps the driver be more focused and safe as they continue down the road again. It's just drivers. And let me interject here as well. I can't tell you how many times the other side of this argument is where, hey, if I would get tired, I like to pull over and take a nap when I get tired, and now this 14-hour rule is going to stop me from doing that because I can't.
That's right. I hear that all the time. That's right.
Fill in the blanks. I can't cheat on my logbook or manipulate the numbers. But I mean, that's what it is because it's automatically recording driving time. They're saying, hey, I can't take a nap when I want to. Well, let's get our story straight here, guys, because we're complaining about having to take a be able to take a half-hour nap when you want to. So, which is it?
Okay. Well,
because we're contradicting ourselves when we argue as far as what we should or shouldn't have. Rules.
I see your point. I do. And I think one of the problems is that in reality, which is, you know, a scientific model can take place in a laboratory. But in reality, the way the roads are, you know, with rush hour traffic is just a simple concept we all understand. But with the way people drive and the way things get, is that there are times where it certainly would be more profitable and efficient to not drive during a certain time, during a certain traffic flow, and the driver has lost his ability to manage that decision.
Not necessarily lost their ability to manage that decision. You can still make your plans for your trip the same way you would before. Now, again, the hours of service have not changed. It's just all electronic now. So unless someone's advocating that, hey, I was able to cheat on my logbook and avoid traffic hours, and now I can't, well, then you really don't have an argument. But at the same time, understand these studies that the federal government has done, they're not in a laboratory or in a sterile environment. Okay, when I say that they've done these studies, and I've read a number of them, I can't say I've read all of them, but I've read a number of them. That's where they actually go to companies and say, we want to test this. So we're going to give you a letter for your drivers saying you're under a special study and that these rules don't apply for you at this particular, during this time frame. And they test out and they monitor and they track these different drivers with these test rules to see how it works for them. Okay, so back in before 2004, when they're doing the testing on the 11-hour and the 14-hour rule versus what used to be the 10-hour driving rule and the 15-hour driving rule, which passenger drivers still have as their rules that they have to follow. The study they did actually had real drivers being monitored with equipment and follow-ups and so forth, interviews, and so it wasn't a sterile study in the first place. It was real people being evaluated with the current rules as well as these new proposed rules to see what the sleep factors and whether fatigue factors were included in that.
Yeah, no, and I understand. I think that you well articulate the opinion. Well, it's more. I mean, you're stating it as fact, and I'm certainly not qualified to argue against it. I think that the problem just comes in that I know as a dispatcher, let me just talk about from my perspective. As a dispatcher working with owner-operator car haulers, it is just getting one car requires so much more headache than it should be. Press a button, book a car, go get it. Press a button, book a car, go get it, hit the road, get to the parking space. It is not like that. It is press a button, button doesn't work, car's not there, none of that information's correct, dang it, hit another button, you know? And I mean,
right.
It takes us all day just to get a few cars because so much information has been incorrect that by the time the driver hits the road, he's literally almost out of hours.
Right.
I hate it. You know?
Right. And I understand that that's a specific issue that car haulers will have, whereas regular property transporters aren't necessarily going to have those exact same problems. They
Right.
may have similar ones to some things like that, but for the most part, not. And it's just a hurdle that the car hauling industry is going to have to overcome somehow. But and again, this isn't anything new. The car hauling industry has had this issue for a long time. It's just now the ELD system is like the pressure cooker where they're saying, wait a minute, now if I do this and it falls through, I can't erase that it happened. So now what? I burned up hours that I can't recoup. And again, I've I'm one of those kind of guys that have learned how to read between the lines on things like that because I was a cop, because I was a trooper, and I would look at that and say, okay, so you're admitting that you cheated on your logs before, and now you're upset that you can't. I'm sorry, but the rules are the rules. Just because you got around them at one point doesn't mean that made it right. And let's find a viable solution for your issues instead of cheating on the opposite side of the coin. If these people are putting information into your bill of lading or your shipping information that's incorrect, how do we fix that instead of expecting drivers to cheat on their logbooks? Let's find a solution that really addresses and corrects the problem instead of just something that sidesteps it.
Your logic is strong, Samuel. I mean, I really do understand what you're saying, and your patience with me is astounding. Well, I mean, you must encounter many conversations where you just have to use logic and patience until you wear out your opponent.
It's not about wearing out my opponents. It's not even opponents. Like I said, I am a teacher at heart. I love teaching and helping people understand. I like to see the light bulb come on when someone says, I get it now. And that's great. That's what drives me.
Yeah.
And so me helping people understand things is like eating a chocolate candy bar for me,
Yeah, no, I get that. I really do. I see that. I hear it. And while you're talking, I'm scrolling through the FleetUp product. And, I mean, it really looks good. It looks like there's been a lot of thorough software development of the actual software product. And that, I mean, between the different elements, I mean, you've got free education before you even walk through the door,
right.
As much as you can take. And then you've got a well thought out product. You've even got the voiceover assistant to help you get through its use so you don't have to stay up all night and study the manual. You've got solid support, and then all this information online. I hope that at least one viewer right now is looking at trying out FleetUp ELD Solution. And also what I didn't mention was, and then we're going to go back to that white paper, but all the other elements that this device solution brings into play, because we're talking about, let me open that here. From your maintenance reports, your IFTA, right? And you've got, well, there's all kinds of other things. I mean, you've got what? Driver accounting, your fuel. It was talking about, this white paper is really good. This white paper is talking about all the different things that go into the cost of ownership. And I know, like, I was talking to Dave, and we kind of went through his top 5. And for Dave's order, let's see here if I can get this font bigger. Equipment, fuel, insurance, maintenance, and then licensing. No matter how you organize those top 5, because I think in your white paper you had fuel as number 1, equipment as number 2, or maintenance might have been number 2, but those are major ongoing financial commitments that, with proper management electronically, gives you a better picture and better efficiency for the future, right?
Right.
So let's just hit upon the concept of the third wave for a second. First wave of fleet technology, 1985 to 2013. I like that, 1985 and not 1984, but 1985 to 2013 activity documentation. So this is the 2 to 3 decades of, like you talked about, where nobody's doing the paper accounting, but it's, I mean, almost everybody has a program like QuickBooks, right? So you've moved into activity documentation in a sense there, and then the second wave, 2013 to 2017, driver safety and accountability. So we just finished the second wave. Here we go into the third wave, which is fleet operations profitability. And when you look at it from that sense, that might, I think people do talk about this, it's the larger fleets that are the first ones, sometimes the only ones, that truly love the ELD. Do you have, I mean, or am I properly categorizing this, characterizing the need to move into the third wave? I mean, that's where we are now.
I think so. Yeah, understand back in 1985, what were computers? Back then we had what, Windows 3.1, if that. I don't even know if Windows was out yet in 1985, and so technology was not what we think about today.
I don't think it was DOS. Yeah.
Yeah, and so in the last 10 years, technology has just leaped and bound over hurdles and became something that we don't even think twice about now in our world of instant everything. We want it now, and we don't want to wait. It's just a natural progression, and of course, it seems like the larger companies are the ones that are all pro ELDs because they've already had to automate everything in order to stay afloat, in order to become large and stay profitable. They were buying computers back when Windows was brand new, and the smaller companies weren't being pushed in any way or forced to get that kind of automation going in their business because paper logs and paper records all seem to be fine. But when you get to 1,000 drivers, that's a lot of file cabinets if you have to keep paper driver qualification files.
Well, and I think that, again, on behalf of the owner-operator, that's where you feel like it's the larger companies that in the end win the game and push out the smaller single user. That's why mom and pop drugstores are gone. There's this feeling that, right, it's like the board, that you will assimilate, and if you do, right? So I can't help it but understand how the individual feels, that losing some individuality on this. I guess ultimately, you know what I think the wish is the wish is just like we hear about how agriculture keeps getting a 90-day waiver. Right? Like, and I think they're going to probably get a 90-day waiver for quite a while until they don't get any waiver. I think that car haulers wish they could get a 90-day waiver. Or, right? Like, wouldn't that be great? Or maybe a 6-month waiver. But I guess overall, these waivers are just delaying the inevitable. Isn't that true?
Basically, here's my take on this agricultural commodity transportation waiver that was extended. My gut feeling on it is that these drivers that transport cattle or any of the other commodities that are listed in that groupings, they're saying, well, what are we supposed to do with the cows? Well, what did you do before? Okay, are you admitting that you didn't follow the rules have not changed? The hours of service are still the same rules. What are you saying? You've been cheating on your logbooks for the last 10 years? So
it's really funny.
Well, what did you do with the cows before then? Well, now the cows are going to be diseased, and who's going to pay pay for that meat, and who's going to keep all of these places we have to offload the cattle at, and et cetera, blah, blah, blah. And what did you do before? You know, they got a waiver on their half-hour break so that they don't have to leave the cows in the truck for 30 minutes while they have a lunch break. And that's not good enough. So now they have an extension on this waiver. Now, what's the purpose of this waiver extension? All right, now the official answer is they're doing reviews and studies on the agricultural commodity transportation industry and what's going to work or not work. Okay, so I don't understand that. I think it's more politics in that regard than any of the other waivers that have been issued. I've looked at all those different waivers. I even made for FleetUp a chart that shows all the different waivers, whether it's innate by the regulations or it's one of these temporary waivers, or whether it's an exception or an exemption in the regulations versus a waiver that has been issued temporarily with a temporary reasoning. And almost all of them make sense as to why. When you read what the waiver background and the history is, it makes sense as to why they said, yes, we're going to give you this waiver and we're going to give it to you for this long. The agricultural commodity one really doesn't make any sense. But they have it. So I think it's more politics than anything else.
Well, and that seems to be, I know, you know, sitting here with my popcorn on the sidelines, I wonder which lobby is the most powerful to get a waiver. Right?
Obviously the farming and ranching.
Right.
It's always been that way.
Right. So, well, gosh, I mean, it's really fascinating to talk to you about all these things, and I don't want to keep you much longer. Is there anything, you know, we've had a lot of activity in the chat line, which is great. There's actually been a solid viewership throughout this, throughout the hour that I've had you on the phone, which is also great. And hopefully this has given people out there that didn't know about FleetUp an opportunity to consider learning more from FleetUp. Even if you just learn from FleetUp, do the free webinar, get the information, but that if you're running out of time, you haven't chosen an ELD solution, that this seems like a viable solution to help get you through what's guaranteed to be. I mean, April is guaranteed to be an interesting month. Am I right?
It is, and we'll see how things are going. Right now, the feds have been saying that the compliance in the last month or two has been way up on hours of service and ELD. So we'll see what happens with April 1st. And on a side note, let me throw out a point for FleetUp. I know because I've been pressing FleetUp since I began working with them, that they needed a solution that would be user-friendly. And I believe they have created the most user-friendly ELD solution that's out there on the market. So if you get frustrated with the computer side of things or the device app and it's not very user-friendly, check out FleetUp's. Absolutely.
And I will say that FleetUp as a company has been very responsive to me trying to put together an interview, and I've had a great experience with that. I mean, this all happened really fast, so I want to thank FleetUp for being responsive and or scheduling you on the show and organizing this, so I really do appreciate that. Absolutely. So, on that, I guess we're going to say goodnight to you. Thank you so much for joining the show. I hope that it's been, I don't know, I hope it's been an enjoyable experience. I hope this hasn't been too painful. And as you watch the video back, I hope that you enjoy it. And if you see comments come in, I always look forward to comments below the video after it's posted. If you ever see a comment that you feel like chiming in on, man, I would just I would encourage you to do so. This is going to be an ongoing debate and conversation for some time. And so I just really appreciate you joining the show tonight.
Well, thank you. I've had a lot of fun, and I really appreciate you having me on your show.
Cool, man. Cool. All right. Well, thank you. You have a good night, and I will talk to you later.
All right. Thanks.
All right. See ya. Oh, man. That is awesome. I mean, I don't know. What do I say? What do I say? I don't know what to say. I'm speechless. Because, I've seen so many great comments in the chat line that, you know, I feel that way. I agree with you. You guys know how I feel about ELD. I mean, this is how I feel about ELD. You know? I get it. I get it. But Samuel, you know, spoke a lot of sense and logic tonight, and I understand where he's coming from, and so having him on the show was really just really awesome, and I mean, we're gonna have to have the conversation keep going. I know that the Indiana State Police have a Facebook page, and they do some posts from time to time. I hope to get them on the show also. Will officer go easier on me if I use the brand of ELD they sell? Paul has been killing it. It's Comedy Line with Paul Roberts in the chat tonight, ladies and gentlemen. But I understand you, Paul. I really do. I really understand what you're saying. I got 4 warnings past month on the ELD because of my company. Where's the Kool-Aid? The Kool-Aid is always close. You know what I say? Super safe. Super Kool-Aid. See, I feel better already. I'm ready to sign up with an ELD, retired officer, no conflict of interest. Yeah, Samuel Mayfield, ladies and gentlemen, please, I know you can't clap in the live chat. Well, you could maybe clap in the live chat. Really great that he joined us tonight. It's really kind of him to do that. He did not have to do that. FleetUp did not have to let us talk with him. So that is really cool. So, and Jordan, you guys see Jordan in the chat. Jordan helped me organize this interview with Samuel. So I really do appreciate that. And I appreciate any software provider out there that wants to help us stay educated and on top of our obligations, because man, they just keep coming. Just more obligations and more obligations. They just keep coming. Thank you, Paul. That is super cool. And I want to thank you guys for staying in the live chat. I always appreciate the stamina of my audience. It astounds me. I got pulled over going through Iowa on 380. Yeah. You know, I wish I could. I see the Facebook postings of, oh, look out, you know, these coops are open and the scales and this. I would post it every day. If I start doing this show every day, then I'll talk about that. That's never going to happen. I'm never going to be on every day. Nobody wants that. So I want to thank you guys. In the future, we're going to be doing, we got dispatcher training coming up, and I'm hoping we're either going to do dispatcher training next week. I'm actually hoping to do it in 2 weeks. Because those are intense sessions, and I hope next week, actually I was working on another interview today, so I hope that I can, what's that, Dave? Yeah, well, they're in the chat, so if you have this is your last chance. If you have a question for FleetUp, you can chat it, or you can go to FleetUp.com, go in the webinar, sign up for a free webinar, and, no, you can't see that, can you? It's all right. Go sign up for a free webinar. Sign up for a free That's crazy. Sign up for a free webinar and learn and ask your questions there. So it was like a 1-hour webinar. I learn something every time I do a webinar. I always do a free webinar. Sure, why not? But I know you guys are driving in your trucks, so that's why I'm trying to help pass along the information for you. But so that's it, man. Dispatcher training coming up. Hopefully I get another good interview lined up next Tuesday before I get into dispatcher training. As always, I want to thank you guys for joining me. We didn't get to any searches tonight. We haven't done many searches in a while, so we need to start. We need to start searching loads. We'll get back into that. I'm trying to get through some of this information, but thanks a lot, Dave. I appreciate that. Thank you for all the claps. And I'm going to say goodnight to you guys. So I'm going to fire up that car hauler. And I will see you guys. Man, we're at an hour and a half. We got to cut this show. That is it. Thank you guys for joining me again. Please don't forget to like. And you can email me. You can do that. But I love the comments below the videos. The likes and the comments help my YouTube search rankings in the immediacy, and that really helps overall with my channel authority, which just keeps growing, and this thing's becoming a monster, so I really, 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 really appreciate that. I couldn't do it without you guys. So, alright, man, thanks for tuning in. I will see you next Tuesday. Take care.